Hi guys, Sean here from Momentum, and today what I'm going to show you is the 5 exercises that you need to be adding into your program if you want to get a rounder butt. Now before we actually get started, we're going to go through a little bit of the anatomy. There are 2 parts of the glutes that you want to really target. One is called the glute maximus, which is usually the bigger part of the glute. And the second part is the glute medius. As the name suggests, this is the muscle that actually activates the side of your hips. This is also going to help you get the rounder curve. Now, I'm going to go through each of the exercises without delay, but if you watch all the way through, what I'll do is also give you an honorable mentions of exercises that didn't quite make the cut, but are still worth implementing. So the first exercise that I'm going to add in is the barbell hip thrust. Probably the queen or the king exercise when it comes to actually building muscle in the glutes. Now the way that I actually like to do this is to add a band between the knees. Now going back to the anatomy, as I mentioned before, adding that band now causes resistance between the knees to make sure they come in together. Forcing the knees out now actually opens up your hips and also activates the glute medius as well as the glute maximus. Now what I'm going to show you is how I implement the barbell hip thrust. And the way that we do it at Momentum with all our clients is to help them with the pre-fatigue isolation hold. Now this is a fancy way of just saying hold the top and squeeze as hard as you can, pulling the band apart as hard as you can as well. This will get all the muscles the activation that you need, and then you go to 8 to 10 reps or your given rep scheme to really feel the muscles burn. This helps people actually feel the muscle, because some people cannot activate their glutes, so to speak, or feel the activation of the glutes. This is just one of the tricks that I like to use to help people feel the movement as well as the muscles. Now we all know that lunges are great for you, but what I like to do is further increase the glute activation by using the deficit lunge. So as you can see, what I've done here is I've put a plate on the edge of the platform to help get the extra stretch. Now you need to make sure that your knee goes closer to the floor so you can actually get the activation and stretch that we're looking for. Now to give you a bit more understanding of what's happening here, the glute actually helps with stabilizing the hips. So when you have a deficit, your hips naturally want to drop onto one side. So that's why you may see people put their hands on their hips so you see that they don't go wonky. This is going to help activate those glutes furthermore and get a further stretch. Obviously, the higher that the deficit is, or the greater the deficit is, the more activation you get with your hip, but you also tend to feel a stretch on the hip flexor. So this is where you have to find a good balance between the two. Of course, with every single lunge and split squat, you have to add in the Bulgarian split squat. Now you can actually start to do this and make it biased towards activating the hip. So with the Bulgarian split squat, to get more activation on the hip, you want to try and make sure that your knee is always going to be perpendicular with the floor. In other words, not letting the knee go past the toes. Nothing to do with actual pressure on the knee itself, but putting it more so towards the hip. Now if you find that this is difficult and you struggle with balance, you can still activate these glutes and the thigh muscles, might I add, by using support. Now if you're going to use support on this exercise, so if you have your left foot forward and your right foot on the bench, make sure you hold support on your right hand. This way you can actually focus on the movement and actually use more weight if you need to as well. Now the last 2 exercises I tend to add towards the end of the programs on glute based days. This includes the frog pump. You can do this for high reps and also add the band for extra resistance. This one here you can go for 20 to 25 reps and you'll definitely feel the burn. The last exercise that I highly recommend is the single leg foot raise glute bridge. Now if you can't do this to the full extent, you can still do this on the floor. Having the elevation just helps you activate more hamstring and also glute because you're now balanced and having extra range of motion. This one here, if you can, hold the top for 2 to 3 seconds, slowly go down, and then go back into it as many reps as possible. I highly recommend when it comes to these single leg exercises that you always do this with your weaker side first. That way, if you can't continue on, your stronger leg can now match the balance of it. Now here are some honorable mentions of some exercises that didn't quite make our list. The first exercise is the back extension with a glute bias. How we make it more glute bias is making sure you don't overextend through your lumbar or your lower back. Squeeze the bum for 2 to 3 seconds at the top before you lower back down again. The next exercise that I highly recommend, and also is an honorable mention, is the walking lunges. Anything that gets you using one leg at a time causes the hips to be challenged in terms of balance. This is why you may actually feel a lot of glute activation when you do single leg based exercises, including the Bulgarian split squat. Now the last exercise that I highly recommend that is an honorable mention as well is the high step up. Now the only reason why I never added this in is because I'm still experimenting with this exercise. A high step up is traditionally going to be roughly around knee to about mid thigh, and you're not going to go all the way down. You're going to get the full stretch. You can kind of think of this as a really high deficit lunge, and anything that challenges the hips to be more in balance and also one leg at a time is going to really use the glutes. So if you found this list really useful, let me know. And obviously if you like it as well and you want more information about how to use muscles or exercises that can help you develop certain muscles again, make sure you click the subscribe button and also click on the bell so you get notifications. If you found this video also useful, make sure you give it a thumbs up. This is just going to help us build our community and have Team Momentum grow bigger and larger. Thank you everybody, keep building momentum.